And Andrew tonight here on Pilled.net, YouTube, and Facebook. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We hope that you had a wonderful Father's Day. It was certainly a good day for me. How was your Father's Day, Rob?
My Father's Day was spectacular. I spent with my son and my nephew. We're just walking around the city, and my son's nanny invited us over. She cooked a really nice Father's Day meal for me, Jamaican style. So we ate until our hearts were content. Then we came back home, took the boys to the Apple store because they love playing with the computers and whatnot there. So we had a great evening. The weather was nice. Couldn't ask for anything more.
Yeah, it was really nice here as well. I went over to my parents and had some New York strip and some corn and some salad. It was a really good dinner, and I got my dad a Stargate box set. We're both big fans of Stargate, so I got him Stargate SG-1 season 1 through 10, the box set. So I got him that. So yeah, it was a good Father's Day over at my house. I hope it was a good Father's Day for everyone else as well. Let's go ahead and bring on Heather and Sean and find out how their Father's Day treated them.
Absolutely, yes, because they're our guest on. Let's see here. We've got Sean. Sean, how's it going? And then we have Heather. How's it going, guys?
Hey, great to see everybody again. Wonderful. And
Yes.
again, happy
Yeah, good
Father's
to
Day
see
to
you.
you. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a long time since we've all been together. Hopefully we'll have some more guests on with us, BB Diamond. You never know who shows up after dark. This is After Dark. And after dark, we do adult things. And don't go off on the deep end, of course. We're not going to have anyone like stripping or anything like that. But you know, you never know. It is after dark. So.
Thought we were conservatives around here, Rob.
Wait, conservatives can have fun. You know, as Michael Loftus,
Libertarians, maybe.
Michael Loftus of the Loftus Party said that conservatives can have fun. You know, and I think that's the problem. Most people think that we're uptight and we're shrewd, and you know, we have our buttons, our collars buttoned all the way to the top. We don't take off our suit jackets, and that's just not who we are. We are about having fun. And if Donald Trump taught us anything, it's that we know how to have fun. It's not the conservative party of your great grandparents, you know. It's the modern day conservatives, you know, and we can have fun. We don't go off on the deep end like Andrew Cuomo and his nipple ring. But if you have a nipple ring, there's nothing wrong with that. We don't show our pecker like Anthony Weiner. Gosh, he must have got a lot of problems. I mean, a lot of ragged a bit about his last name being Weiner.
I guess you'd need a few psychiatrists to unpack that.
Well, I don't know if we want them to unpack it.
Perhaps an unfortunate choice of words there. Sorry.
You know, some people, they like to, you know, get out there and display it all. But hey, like I said, we like to have fun just like everyone else. So I hope all the fathers out there had a spectacular time this Father's Day, you know, enjoying it with your family. And even if you're not a father, you know, just it's another day to give thanks, you know, to all the men who do get up every day and make it happen to keep the family together. There are even some mothers that are out there that fill that roles. There are some uncles, there are brothers, there are friends, you know, it's just like the whole thing. But on this day, you know, we honor you and we thank you, because that's what it's all about, you know. Thanking those guys that get out there and they do it. So what do you guys want to talk about tonight? I mean, I've got a laundry list of things that I want to talk about, but, you know, I'm always jumping out there and dominating the conversation. So if you guys don't throw anything out there, just as soon as I...
Well, we can find out how...
I am going to...
Well, I was going to say, we can find out real quick how Heather and Sean spent their Father's Day today before we move on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Heather, how was your Father's Day today?
Oh, it was fine. Thank you for asking, Andrew. I miss my dad very much. He passed away quite a lot of years ago. He was a real force of nature and a wonderful, very, very devoted dad. And I thought about him a great deal. And I really like what you said, Rob, about men who stand up and go to work, go to games, go to support. I think that strong men when you think about it, what does it mean to be a man? I was thinking a little about this the past couple days, and I think that really good men don't get as much credit as they deserve, or as much press these days as bad guys, and I think that really the good men who give so much to their families, whether they're dads or not, are in many ways unsung heroes, everyday heroes. Of course, a lot of good women as well, but we're talking about dads, and what does it mean to be a father, to be the person you can depend on. I think to be the man, the women can be very strong and nurturing multitaskers. We know that, but there's something unique, I believe, in the role of a strong man, as there is to be a strong woman. I think that these roles, they don't have to be rigid, and skills and gifts can overlap. But I do think there's something about manhood. I often have empathy, to be honest with you, for men, because this isn't a popular thing to say these days, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it. I think it must be very hard to be a man, maybe in certain situations and ways, even harder than it is to be a woman. I think that men are held responsible at the end of the day for how things go in a lot of ways, in a family, in a country. A lot of pressure, I think. And I think society maybe tends to be a little more forgiving sometimes of women when we, maybe fall short of certain things. So I just want to sort of give a shout out to the guys who, get up for work every day, or who think of others and, are there for us, let us depend on them, show up in quiet ways. They're not always the most emotional, the most overtly captivating, but they keep this country going, and we love them.
Well, thank you, said. Heather. I really appreciate that.
You guys are some of the guys I'm thinking of.
Well said, Heather. Sean, how about you? What did you do on your Father's Day today? Sean, are you with us?
He might be having mic problem because he had to jump off a while ago, and I brought him back on. I see him,
okay,
but we can't hear him. So, Sean, when you're ready to speak, please speak. But while he gets his mic together, I just want to say this, Heather, something that you mentioned in your statement that is so true. It's how society is it seems to be so unforgiving to men and so harsh on men. Mm-hmm. And they're constantly trying to tell men how they're supposed to be, to define our masculinity. Mm-hmm. So I was looking at this not too long ago, and I thought, why are they always trying to define a man's masculinity? And the moment you bring up how women are supposed to be, the feminine qualities of women, oh my God, all hell breaks loose. Mm-hmm. If a man were to dare say, I prefer my wife not working at home. And if a woman were to say it, oh, she's crazy. She's being suppressed. She's being oppressed. But we can talk about how a man is supposed to be and act 24/7. Even Meghan Markle came up with an article. She's writing a book, and she's saying she wants to redefine masculinity. You had a guy who was on The Bachelor who came out as being gay. He wants to, folks, leave men alone, okay? Why don't you define how you're supposed to be? It's confusing for little boys constantly trying to define, oh, you're too rough, or you're too toxic, you're too this, you're too that. Is anyone ever saying that a woman's too butch or she's not feminine enough? It's ridiculous. Sean, are you with us now?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. No, I was going off on one of my usual rants, but Andrew had a question for you. How was your Father's Day? Before I continue, how was your Father's Day?
Thank you. Yeah, well, thanks everybody as well, and thank you for sharing your stories. I actually had a good day today. I spent it kind of relaxing anyway. I lost mine a couple years ago, so it's that's kind of been a little bit rougher, but it was a very good day today. I spent today watching the U.S. Open golf and met with some friends, and it's good to get back out and about doing things again. So I've had a really good week as far as like went out to a baseball game the other day, went out to some outdoor live music, and the great thing about it is you see people acting like normal again. I saw very few masks and things, and it's like things have finally seemed to move past as far as all this bad stuff, and so it's been good. It was a good day. I relaxed and watched a lot of golf today, which was nice, and it's one of the few things that golf that has not been tainted by the left, at least not yet anyway. It seems like the other sports, of course, have gotten their fill of wokeism, and so it was good to enjoy that. And as you were mentioning, it's difficult. It's more and more to the assault on masculinity, and you don't see it in my photo, but I'm also white, so I'm a white male, and it's like first I have to apologize for being white and a male, but no, just kidding. But yeah, you understand where I'm coming.
Wait, Sean,
Yes.
you're a white male. I thought you were a green dinosaur. Oh my gosh!
Little spoiler alert, right?
Oh no!
Yes, yeah, the gig is up, right? But yeah, so my Twitter dinosaur, of course, is green. But yes, in real life, behind the curtain, I'm actually a white dude, and I guess I have my privilege as well, much like Andrew does here. In addition, so
yeah,
but it was
I want
day.
your privilege. I want your privilege. You and Andrew, you guys owe me, okay? You owe me everything that you have. That white privilege, you men.
You're getting
How
it.
about me? You guys all owe me.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm coming to collect. Don't make me come down there.
We owe each other. Hey, BB Diamond just joined. BB, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me on this show. I'm doing well. Happy Father's Day to all of you gentlemen who are fathers. Rob, I love the hat. I love the hat.
Thank you. I thought I'd bring the hat back out.
I love it, love it, love it. Sorry I had technical issues. But thanks for having me on. Thank you.
Great. So we were just talking. Andrew had just put out there, he was having everyone to go around and talk about their Father's Day. My father's no longer with me, God rest his soul. But somehow I got on one of my rants, and I was ranting about society, the world, the left. Tonight I'm just going to speak truth to power. Okay? I'm not going to hide behind any curtains, as Sean is doing, hiding behind a green dinosaur. I thought he was a dinosaur all this time. And then he tells me he's a white man, an oppressor. He's supposed to be oppressing me, but hey.
Yeah, who knew?
Right, who knew?
Yeah.
But I was talking, how society is constantly trying to define what being a man is. Now, I know that there are some men that are out there that need help. But society has taken it to a whole new level. And BB, you came on the show once and you were talking about the Black family and how important it is to have, the Black man in the family. But I'm looking at this from a broader aspect, and it's just men as a whole. We had a guest on the show, Cynthia McAllister, I think was her name, Denise McAllister, and she was saying how, the white man is in danger. And I was saying, right, I think all men are in danger of being erased because society does not seem to like men. And they're always trying to tell us how we should be. And the moment you tell a woman how she's supposed to be, you're misogynistic. You don't like women. Right, you better watch it. You will get canceled. And we spoke about this once before, and Heather, and you and BB, I was asking you, and why is it that these women hate men so? And now they have people thinking that you can have a kid without a man. You don't need it. You have a lot of women. Go ahead.
I mean, I have to maybe just, a caveat sort of in defense of women a little here. I think that there are a few things going on. There are women who are, and people in general who are hostile to men as a whole group, which I agree is terrible, and it's a form of prejudice. And I don't understand how in this day and age, when we're so sensitized to prejudice, supposedly, we can make sweeping statements about whole groups of people that are negative and found whole political philosophies, that seem to be steeped in this. Anyway, we all agree here that this is very negative. I do think that men as a group are, of course, important and wonderful, but I think that a lot of things are going on. I mean, in terms of single women, single motherhood, it's something that I personally have nothing against women for, deciding this. I can tell you that I think for a woman to get to that point, and I do have some experience with this in my own friendship group, and there was a time I contemplated it. I'm not contemplating it anymore. It's not my path, but I think that for a woman to get there to the point where she decides I am going to seriously consider doing this on my own, let's be honest here. That's really nothing that any little girl dreams of doing as a child. She doesn't dream of growing up and going to the sperm bank, and I think it usually is a decision arrived at after a lot of disappointment, quite honestly, which isn't to beat up on men either, but I think that we have we're in a time of a lot of change, rapid change, and I think relationships between men and women have, in some ways, suffered a lot of blows, and a lot of women have been very disappointed, and I'm sure a lot of men have too, and that's perhaps part of the human condition. But I do think that the rapid upheavals in terms of gender roles, the way society's structured, the growth of a huge counterculture that's, really hit us in a big wave over the past few decades, and, produced some positive change, but also a lot of discombobulation, everything from a huge divorce rate to a lot of upset in terms of what people are expecting. People have different expectations about what it means to be a husband, to be a wife, to be a family person, and I think that, it's almost amazing that men and women are still able to get together and be happy with each other. There's been so much rapid change. I think a lot of people are confused. And so I think, I have empathy for, some women who, have wanted to find that partner, that strong male partner, and just haven't had that good fortune, haven't been able to land on what they wanted. And I think usually it's a choice that's made, because they want a child and they want to be family women, but they haven't, for whatever combination of reasons, been able to find that, strong man who's attracted to them, who they're attracted to, with whom they're aligned, to do that in time. So I think it's more, honestly, I think that's more of a failure of, I think that it's kind of, I see it as being a result of society's kind of failure to really give people a strong, stable kind of grounding in terms of expectations. And I think, actually, that and a few other factors, I think a lot of women have kind of suffered, as a result of that. And that's why I think they're making the best of it by becoming single moms. I don't think it's usually like, yay, I want to be a single mom. I
by no means do I mean that. I think what I was looking at is that you do have a certain segment of the population, strong feminist, who feel that, they don't want a man, and it's not that they haven't been looking,
Mm-hmm.
they don't want it, they feel that they don't need it. I commend those women. But when you look at the population,
I don't know too many of them, Rob. I don't think the women becoming
I
single
know
moms don't like
I know
that.
a lot of them. I know a lot of them out. Well, again, not the ones who have decided
maybe it depends
that the
on
relationship isn't
who.
working. Right. Again, I'm not.
The ones I
them
know
all.
really would love to.
Right.
The ones I know,
They
granted,
want
I'm
that
just talking about
significant
a few
other.
people.
Right. They want
do.
that. They appreciate the family setting. That being said, I have encountered, especially on the left, like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, of women who feel as if though I don't need a man, I can do this myself. But there's a caveat to that. When they do proceed to do it by themselves and they have denigrated the man, then the same women want to come out and complain that there are no good men. Well, you have attacked the man. You told the man that he's toxic, he shouldn't be masculine, and now you're saying that he doesn't have the qualities that you want. What do you expect? Again, I am not saying this is all women. BB, help me out here.
Well, no, I agree with you because I think,
BB, your mic is not working. We can't hear you.
Wow. You can't hear me at all? No?
We can hear you now.
Oh, good. I agree with you, Rob, and I think this disrespect of men really hurts the family. I know that in the Black community. And I'm thinking of Murphy Brown's character on that television show, and the glamour.
Oh gosh, she's fading out. She's making a great
single
segment.
Motherhood. Vice President Quayle brought that out. He was demeaned by the media, but the single motherhood is what has hurt the Black community, and I've known that personally. So we need men, we need fathers. Fathers are critical. So I hear what you're saying, Rob. You're absolutely right.
Right, because when you look at it, you don't see a man saying that I don't need a woman to have a kid.
You're seeing it a little bit. You're seeing it a little bit.
I've
know
never
a couple.
encountered that. No, hear me. I'm the one. So you've seen men to say that they want a kid but don't want the woman?
I know of a couple men. Both of them are wealthy men who recently hired surrogates women to carry a child with their sperm. And I'm not sure who the egg belonged to, if it was the surrogate or somebody else. But basically, these are two men I know of. I don't know either of them well. They're both acquaintances who chose to become single dads. And the interesting thing was, I have to admit, I didn't approve of it, really. I didn't like it, even though I do approve of a single woman doing that. So I realized, I realized that isn't exactly perfectly fair of me. It's just the way I felt. And I don't mean to go into detail, but because I think both mothers and fathers are incredibly important. But I guess I believe that it's more possible for a child to, sad and unfortunate as it is, for a child not to have a father. And I do think it's very unfortunate. I do think that, nature, listen, sometimes in nature, sadly, this happens. A father has to go to war, or a father isn't there. I do think a child can be raised, certainly it's a disadvantage, but I think it can be raised among women, by a mother. I think to be raised without a mother or someone, a female, to nurture in the early years, to me, that's very strange and unnatural. And I really question whether that's, a responsible choice for a man to make.
Right.
But I do know of a couple men who have done that.
Well, I mean, just speaking from experience, before I say that, I mean, we had on the show Joe Kent, who lost his wife. She was serving in the military. He lost it just in December, and she left behind 2 little boys.
Oh.
And he's going at it by himself,
Yeah, well, he has no choice. God bless him. He has no choice.
And then I look at myself being a single father.
Oh, that's right, of course.
Never had I expected to take on that task. However, circumstances presented itself, and I'm now rearing my great nephew because his mom couldn't do it, and my sister unfortunately died. So didn't want this kid in the system, a Black kid in the system. So I raised my hand up, being a single guy, and said, okay, I will do it. He's 7 years old now. I got him when he was 5 months. And to say the least, it has been a challenge, me going at it by myself on my own. I've had friends, around me and whatnot. But I do it. So was I doing it? But he's still here. I'm still here. And he's all of 7. So it can be done. But I think in society, people, as you said, Heather, they always see that, okay, it's okay for the woman, but for a man to do it, it's just something that we don't see often. It's being done. It is being done. It's just it's the silent story that's never reported, because we hear so many cases of women doing it. The woman carries a child for 9 months. She has a child, so she's with the child. The father isn't there. The father doesn't have to carry the child. But in certain circumstances, let's say in the situation whereby the mom dies or the mom just doesn't want to do it, you don't hear a lot of those stories, but they're out there. But because the way society is, we only see the mother. Now, I take my hat off to those single mothers that get up. We had a Mother's Day program. Take my hat off to them that get up and they do it every day. And we've heard many stories of the mothers being the mother and the father, the disciplinarian, the grandmother, I mean, completing all those different hats. But there are men that are out there that are also doing it. And I take my hat off to them.
Yes, and I just put my foot in my mouth, Rob. I'm very sorry. I certainly, I wasn't thinking of. I know you're an amazing father.
By no means. No, I think Heather. Before you go any further, we have to be able to have these conversations and have a difference of opinion. I don't think you're referring to me because I know you. I know who you live. So no, I didn't think that at all. No, not at all.
You know what? But you know what? It reminds me to hear your story. That this is one thing that the liberals aren't wrong about, is that we are all individuals, and a man can be as nurturing, as loving as a woman. A woman can be as strong as a man if she has to be.
Yeah, because I personally don't see men as being teachers in elementary schools. I can't see it because, as you said, I think the kid needs someone who's nurturing, and that's not to say that a man can't fill that role. But anyone else want to jump in? Heather and I were just going backwards and forward with BB.
Yeah, I mean, what I could say is that I think y'all make very good points as far as, the situations. And each situation is different, of course. And Rob, that's very commendable that you've done what you did for your family, and it certainly shows. From my perspective, too, I don't have any kids of my own, but you look at different situations. Like, for example, if you log on to a dating site or a couple dating sites, you start to look at different profiles and things, right? And you'll see, a woman's page, like, I'm a single mom. My kids are my world. I'm looking for a strong man who's financially stable to help support me in my family. Oh, and by the way, no Trump supporters, and only vaccinated need to apply. So you'll get that as well. So it does make it kind of funny in situations like that, how, crazy things can be, at least from judging somebody like on a dating site or a dating profile, something like that. And, how picky, I guess you could say, and how, crazy some of these people can get as far as like, the dating world and being a single mom or single dad or whatever else. It certainly gets complicated these days. And, you see more and more of that, where just people's situations get very complex as far as dating and as far as their family situation. And now you have the left adding things to it, like, for example, of course, people changing their gender, or wanting to identify as something else, or wanting to identify as a different pronoun than he or she or him or them, or whatever you want to call it, right? And so that's adding to even further confusion, I would say.
Yeah, well said, Sean. And I honestly believe that Facebook is the worst thing that's ever happened to the family in America. I mean, you read about the divorce rates, and I believe it was like a couple of years ago, it was like 49% of all divorce were getting divorced because of people that their significant other had met off of Facebook. It was a disaster for the families, and people are spending so much time on these social media apps. It's completely changed the dating game, it seems like to me.
Twitter as well, of course.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, and because a lot of people, I just put in the comments that Facebook is like a soap opera. And people go on and they think they're falling in love with different people. Mm-hmm. In actuality, they're only falling in love with the persona that has been created on Facebook or the social media. But you can't tell them to pick up with this other. They meet the other person. They see what I thought. You're not who I thought you were. What happened? What did I do wrong? But it happens all the time. But you're right, Andrew. I mean, Facebook is social media is horrible. It is horrible. And that just leads me to the next thing I want to throw out there is that how so many people get their news from social media, and social media knows it. And that is the reason why they're in control. They are the biggest platform for the news. dissemination of the news. All the more reason, and I know that some people disagree with this, that they need to be regulated. Because the disinformation that they're putting out there, the censorship, that's extremely dangerous. And we see that now with the whole China virus, also known as COVID-19. Look at how they censored people who were speaking against or just suggesting that, hey, maybe this virus came out of the lab. And for Facebook to shut them down, YouTube to shut them down, Twitter to shut them down, that is a huge problem, folks. Not just because they shut down the dissemination of information or the thought process of a theory as to where this virus might have came from, but if they did it with that, can you imagine what else they could do? If we were to find out that something was happening and they were to shut it down, if we were to find out that Joe Biden is in fact a Russian agent and we had the proof to support it, they could shut it down and we would never know. If we were to find out that China had bought Biden and that Biden was handing over the controls of our country to China, they would shut it down. That's dangerous. And when I see I know that Democrats are going to be okay with it, but when I see Republicans that are just giving it lip service, yeah, and then they move on. Josh Hawley was strong on this. He saw this as soon as he entered the Senate, and he started speaking out about it. And I covered it in my Twitter account, which is now defunct because they did not want me speaking truth to power. They kicked me off. I am still off. While you have people from Iran on there spreading hate, you have Ilhan Omar speaking hate and ill toward Israel. Rashida Tlaib, what the heck has happened? Why is it that up is down and down is up? We should all be afraid, and we should be talking about this every chance we get, because it is a threat to our democracy. It is a threat to who we are as American citizens, that they are able to silence voices that they don't like. This is Mao China. This is Russia. And the media is pretending as if though it isn't. This is extremely dangerous.
No, I agree, Bob. I agree. The censorship, that needs to be addressed. They have.
Maybe your mic is fading out, unfortunately.
Better? 1, 2, 3, testing. Is that better?
It's a little better, but you keep fading out for some reason. And what you're saying is we really would like to hear it.
Okay. Sorry about that. I think, Section 230 needs to come under consideration. The censorship by big tech is out. I was kicked off Twitter as well.
Oop, we lost her.
I think we lost Bibi. She'll come back on, dial back on. Does someone else want to have a rebuttal or say something to what I just said, Sean?
Yeah. Well, what I would say is that what you were bringing up with the dangers of things like Facebook, Twitter, and other sites, and how first of all you talked about how these have become your personas, right, in dating, and it's gotten people really screwed up in that you're not dating the person you see on social media. We have been fortunate to get bigger accounts on social media, and I have my thing, you have your thing, but talking to us as regular people like we are now, it's a different image. In addition, as you were saying, like with Facebook, Twitter, and other things, right? If you spoke out saying this COVID stuff, it's really become a hoax, well, that's cause for suspension and dismissal. If you say this COVID vaccine is being a hoax, that's also cause for the same thing. If you say, hey, there actually was election fraud in this past election, in fact, it was really bad, and in fact, Trump pretty much nearly won every state, well, that's cause for Facebook execution and or Twitter execution. What other platforms that you want to get into? Other things too, like YouTube, everywhere is experiencing some sort of attack on the censorship in the free speech anyway. So it's tricky.
Absolutely tricky. Bibi, you're back. Can we hear you?
Yes. Can you guys hear me now? Is that better? Can you hear me?
You keep fading in and out, but go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to have to switch to another device. But anyway, I was just saying,
Heather, you were about to say?
Yeah, thank you. Really, just that I think we hear so much about you can't say anything about the election or question anything about possible fraud because that's seditious. And what happened January 6th is seditious. And okay, but if that's the case, I mean, is it not seditious to promote violent hatred of the police? Is it not antithetical to the institutions of our country to rile people up to attack federal buildings? The organizations, whether we're talking about BLM or Antifa, which actually took over entire American cities, I'm talking about Antifa, and prevented ambulances from getting in to rescue people, caused death and destruction all summer long. As far as I'm aware, they have not been banned from social media. So I've said this before. To me, the double standard is patently absurd. How can you be, I mean, and of course, in your case, Rob, you never said anything inciting violence or anything like that. But anyone who in any way expresses concern or doubt about the election, we're told the reason they need to be blocked is because it might encourage violence. Well, there were and are many individuals and groups continuously commenting on social media about what's wrong with this country, what's wrong with the police, while you had over the spring and summer a climate of actual violence against the police in many places, not just for one terrible day, but for months. And these groups and individuals were not, that I'm aware of, ever kicked off social media. So I think it's a big joke. It's an obvious double standard. And I don't really understand why there isn't more of an outcry about that. But I guess, what are we going to do? I mean, we can only say it and, find alternate platforms. So.
Well, you're right. Like you said, we can only say it and say it. And I know that people get tired of us saying it, but we have no choice but to point it out because we are definitely sliding toward neither region that we don't want to be at or in. You look at what happened with the G7 summit, and how the media came out and they praised Biden for what? So many missteps, so many missed opportunities. And the biggest opportunity that he missed was standing toe-to-toe with Putin, who's all of 5'7" in height. And he couldn't do it. Putin stood there for an hour and Biden 20 minutes. And he was rambling. But we were told that, oh, wow, he let everyone know that America is back. And what he's saying, and if you are an acolyte of fake news CNN, you're going to believe it. And that's what's so scary and dangerous. Because although their ratings are horrible, people do listen to that nonsense and they believe it and they buy it. But if you're able to just look and just like, okay, you don't have to agree with the conservative platform, but look in front of you as to what this guy is saying. Well, he's a lot better than Trump because everything was so like at a level 10, whereas with Biden, we're smooth sailing, but we're being run over. This is dangerous for Putin to stand on the world stage and then to mock us and say, we don't want what happened during the summer of 2020 with Black Lives Matter, burning up buildings, destroying property, and then a woman being shot at the White House. We don't want that to happen here. Now, just imagine, had Biden been on the stage with him, what would he have said? What would have been his response? Knowing that he's not going to set that with Donald Trump. And had Donald Trump not come back with something, then shame on him. But Donald Trump is not in the office. It's Biden. And when Biden stood on the stage by himself, he should have stood there for more than 20 minutes and he should have addressed all those issues and said, I know that he said this, it is wrong, and this is why. But Biden couldn't say that because he knew that what Putin was saying was right. And something else, folks, I am going to say here. The FBI is corrupt under Christopher Wray. Not every segment of it, but there are parts of it that is corrupt. What happened on January 6th, we're being fed a lie. And I would caution you all and admonish you to go to America Out Loud and look for After Dark with Rob and Andrew. And look at the interviews that we have had with two patriots that don't know each other, that are saying exactly the same thing. What happened on January 6th was a ruse. It was planned. The FBI had plants there. Folks, look at it for yourself. Do not take my word for it. We are being fed lies. Christopher Wray is an enemy to the state. He should be called out and arrested. And all those people that support him should be arrested. I am saying that tonight. They should be arrested because there's a lot more here than what we're being told. And if you think I'm lying, you can even go to CNN and listen to what they are saying. They're saying exactly what I'm saying, but they're trying to spin it. They are saying that there were indicted co-conspirators. Who were they? They work for the FBI. Why haven't they been arrested? And why, if those who have been arrested, why weren't they charged with insurrection? They've been charged with trespassing. Some were charged with having a legal weapon. Why not insurrection? Why are we still being told that it was an insurrection on January 6th and no one has been indicted? No one is in jail for insurrection. These are political prisoners. And I hate to say it. Prove me wrong. Please, someone, prove me wrong.
I just like to jump in for a moment. Can you guys hear me now? Is this better?
Yes, we hear you perfectly.
Much better, yes.
Much. Okay, thanks for your patience. Sorry about the technical issues. Rob, what you're saying is very important because Darren Beattie, who was interviewed by Tucker Carlson,
Yes,
is also saying this, that the FBI orchestrated this or was behind it or may have infiltrated the group. So I think once Trump, and I don't want to sound out there, but there's a very real possibility that Trump will be reelected in 2024. We're going to uncover a lot of stuff, guys. A lot of stuff. Christopher Wray, I mean, I agree with you, Rob. He should have been fired. The FBI is corrupt. I don't feel as an American citizen that I can trust the FBI at this point. The fact that they may have been behind what happened on January 6th and to discredit President Trump and his supporters is very, very significant. And CNN has reported they're trying to dismiss it. But Darren Beattie of Revolver was on Steve Bannon's War Room. He spoke about this. This is going to get very serious, folks. It's going to get very serious. Thanks, Rob, for bringing that up. Thank you.
absolutely. It's going to. And I'm putting the articles right now, dropping them in the chat room. And I would encourage you all to read them. Because what we were told and what actually happened, I don't want to say that I can't believe it, but considering the fact that they stole the election. Now, let me just be clear on something. We are not saying that President Trump is going to march back into office in August. That's impossible. I don't want that to happen, because if it were to happen, that would rip the country apart. We would have a civil war. Okay, but come 2024, it's a different story. And if President Trump isn't the candidate to do it, then we need someone else. I am resolved to the point that we need someone to take up the mantle and move forward. And that person has to be strong enough and surround himself around strong people that will agree with his policies and his platform. And as I have said before, there are a lot of people right now in DC that are corrupt, and they need to be marched out before the American people and handcuffed so that all will know that this must never, ever happen again in the United States. That is your insurrection. That is your treason. That is your high crimes and misdemeanors. Nancy Pelosi, I'm sorry. But Jeff, Eric Swalwell, these people are enemies against the country. Ilhan Omar, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and all of the others with those far left radical terroristic views. They must be called out. We have Hamas on the hill. Shame shame, shame. And any Republican, any conservative that would think otherwise, any conservative that would say, no, we've got to leave them alone, you're wrong. I would say that President Trump, what he should have done when he said he was going to go after Hillary Clinton, he should have done it. Because we see now that the Democrats are doing it. They don't care. And he would have been legitimately within his rights to look into her matter.
But he didn't say he wanted to, Rob. Remember, he was very magnanimous toward her. He said that he thought that she had been through enough and the country had been through enough, and he was not going to pursue things further, which I believe
right, and that's what I'm
for the
saying.
sake of
That was a
country.
mistake. That was a mistake. I felt that he, and hindsight is always 20/20. When he said that, I agreed. But in hindsight, we see that these guys, they don't care. And it's in order to just squash all of this, he should have moved forward.
What I would say to add to all this too is that, number one, I think you've made some very good points regarding this, going back to January 6th, right? And, because I think going back to that day, that's like one of those dates the left keeps trying to point at, right? January 6th, it keeps getting brought up, much like a few years earlier, the Charlottesville incident, right? With the supremacists that were apparently Trump supporters. Okay, they keep bringing that up. They kept doing that for a few years as well, And there's these talking points that they keep trying to throw at us, even stuff from years ago. If you remember the Trump Billy Bush interview, that tape, right? They kept bringing that up hundreds of times. It didn't matter if it was said 10 years ago in some sort of joking manner between Billy Bush and Trump. It didn't matter. They keep bringing that up, and they bring that up on the mainstream news networks and everywhere else. And what I'd also say in addition is that when we talk about did Trump or somebody else decide to prosecute or arrest this person or that person? Well, one thing to remember is I think there's still stuff that has gone on and that is going on behind the scenes where maybe somebody you find it later on is being arrested, or, because a lot of stuff that you just don't see or hear in the media. And some of the stuff I think could be very interesting once once we actually know what the truth is, and the truth is not going to be presented to us by our media outlets. I would definitely
And the truth is out there. It is out there. We just have to be willing enough to face the truth and accept the truth. And as I always say, don't take my word for it. Challenge me. If you think what I'm saying, I'm just blowing a lot of smoke, challenge me on it. Do your own independent investigation, but be open-minded when you start to see that what you were told it isn't exactly what happened. I mean, January 6th, I've always said from day one, the violence, not good. But again, if we tell the people that you have a right to stand up and be heard, if you think that your government isn't working for you, then we're telling them to do it. Look at what happened with Brett Kavanaugh. When those women blocked the Senate floor, they went inside, they camped out, they stayed there. And what were we told? This is what democracy looks like. A lot of people have forgotten about that. That these women went to the Senate floor and they blocked the hallway. Okay, in addition to that, they went to the Supreme Court and they were clawing at the doors of the Supreme Court as if though to say, let us in. If they had gotten in, what would they have done? No one was arrested. Why is it that on January 6th, we keep saying that our democracy was attacked? It was threatened. How was it threatened? Because you had people who said, we've had it, this is not right.
Well,
it didn't look good, but still,
it wasn't good. It wasn't good, Rob. I mean, I tend to see it as you do in some ways. I think this idea that it was a highly organized and premeditated insurrection is an exaggeration. I think if it were, I mean, to put it bluntly, I think that if conservatives, and I'm not in any way advocating any such thing, heaven forbid, I think if conservatives were serious about an insurrection, you would have seen something much more militaristic, organized, and destructive than January 6th. I think it was a mob scene. It took a bad turn. I hear you that I think it was people who, some of whom didn't have hate in their hearts, who wanted to go be heard, were very frustrated. We're part of a group that, we've all been maligned for years now, told that we were racist and all kinds of horrible things because we supported the president who's been was under siege since day one. There was a high level of frustration. I also happen to believe that seeing what happened over the spring and summer, I haven't really heard anyone make this point, but I think seeing so many people take to the streets and in many cases become violent to express political views and be excused for that and even rewarded for that, I think has had a deleterious effect on the whole country. I think that liberals would never consider that it may have been the behavior they sanctioned for months that played a role in January 6th. Personally, I think it might have, because I think in the minds of some people, it wasn't necessarily a conscious thing, but we had a spring and summer of mayhem and violence in our streets over politics, which was excused, which was rewarded. And I think that, people are going to take so much before some more impressionable and less wise individuals blow up. And I think that's what happened. So I don't think it was good. I don't think we should be in any way, downplaying that it was bad. But I didn't have the impression it was highly organized or premeditated. I think it took a bad turn. And I also think that it was the end of the world as far as liberals were concerned. But I think they kind of got a taste of their own medicine for a day. And, they went, to them, it's the worst thing that could have happened and all this. I share with you that yes, it was lousy, but I think so was what they sanctioned for a lot longer lousy. And I think the bottom line is we need to be clear that we have a free, great country where we can express our political views and our views verbally at the voting booth, through writing, through advocacy, through, lawful organization. And that, that's what we need to be doing.
We must be resolute. We must stand together as patriots and make certain that this country does not give in to the whims of these woke individuals. But it's extremely dangerous. They have thrown everything at this country. And now, every time you say anything, you're against the country. You got to be silenced. We've got to silence you, or you're a racist. Look at the mayor of Chicago. After Trump pleaded with her and said, "I will send troops to help you," now she's saying that they have a problem, and the problem is white supremacy. Well, Mayor, the last time I looked, Chicago is predominantly black. A majority of its citizens are black. Okay, so where is the white supremacy? And the other thing is that Chicago is a liberal city. Is she going by, what's his name, Justice Smollett playbook? So where are the white supremacies? It seems to me there's a problem with blackism, black on black crime. Wake the heck up. She should have never been elected. Yes, I will say it. She should have never been elected. Why? Why elect her? To make her the first what? The first black woman? The first lesbian woman? Chicago will never clean up itself as long as you have these liberal people in charge. It is time to speak the truth. Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, what has she done? She's now stepping down after she failed miserably. The mayor of DC, the exact same thing. Muriel Browser. Mm-hmm. And it keeps happening, and people are afraid to say anything. We must speak truth to power.
Yeah, Rob, I just want. I'm sorry.
Seattle, it has to stop. New York City, the exact same thing. It has to stop. Go ahead, Heather.
Oh, just wanted to interject that Sequoia Turner's parents, the parents of the little girl who was murdered at a BLM protest, she wasn't there to protest. Her mother tried to turn her car into a Wendy's, where a BLM protest, so-called peaceful protest, had been allowed to spiral out of control. She was shot and killed, this little girl, 8-year-old girl. I saw that her parents are suing the city of Atlanta and the mayor, I believe, for allowing that to go on and get out of control. So it's, I actually at the time, I felt that Keisha Lance Bottoms was one of the only leaders in the country to speak some truth after this little girl was killed. She told the BLM protesters to stop it, that they had to stop it, that they had killed a baby. They can't blame the police. They have to knock it off. She got tough, but it was after this happened. And anyway, apparently this child's parents are suing the city for allowing this ridiculous, unruly, out of control. It was not a peaceful protest, and it should not have been allowed to continue like that. And it cost this poor child her life. So there are people pushing back. I guess the parents of some of these children who have been caught in the crossfire have been victimized. So,
they're pushing back, and you're right. Keisha Lance Bottoms, she did come out and she did say, I remember her press conference with her saying, you got to stop it. It was a little girl. And, I give her kudos for that, but I am not going to let off of her because she could have taken the reins a lot earlier, just like so many, until she comes out and denounces this up and down and say, we got this wrong. I'm sorry. I'm not cutting any of them any slack. The same thing with the mayor of Chicago. What she could do best is just to resign. And then she comes out with this crazy memo saying that I need my time about 13 times. Did you guys hear about that? She sent an email saying that she needs her time. Oh, really? Who does she think she is? She's supposed to be representing her constituents. Black people should be able to say, wow, look at what she's doing, but she's failing miserably. And any of the Black politicians who want to say, give her don't be so hard on her because her white counterparts, right? Her liberal white counterparts are doing the exact same thing. It is time we call them all out as failures. And that's what they are, failures. She's the first female failure mayor in Chicago. We have to hold these people accountable regardless of sex or race. She failed miserably. And she shouldn't have qualified immunity. They should be able to sue her directly, just like all these other mayors. They want to take away qualified immunity from the police officers, but they haven't. They should be able to directly sue her, and it would wake a lot of these people up who are just running for office just for namesake, just so they can say that I was the first. Look at Barack Obama. He has left office and has caused more division than any president ever in or out of the office. And he sits back and he keeps stoking the seas of discontent. Shame on you. Shame on your wife. Shame, shame, shame. He's a disgrace to the office.
No, you're totally
History should
right.
judge him horribly.
You're totally right, Rob. No, I just say you're totally correct. And I just want to say this. If we're going to hold the January 6th up as some kind of insurrection, which it was not, there were no weapons involved, then if the left wants to have any credibility, we need to talk about the ongoing insurrection against the American people last summer by BLM and Antifa. Look what happened in Portland. People have died. David Dorn, a retired police officer, I believe in St. Louis, shot to death. Weapons were involved. So BLM, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa carried on an insurrection against the country. And the left, the Democrats, are silent. So if they want any credibility on January 6th, they at least need to reference the violent acts committed by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Until they do that, if they just want to focus on January 6th and ignore the lives that were lost during the summer of 2020, the harassment, pulling down statues, just killing people, this little girl getting shot to death in Atlanta. If they're going to ignore all that, then they have no credibility on January 6th, period.
No credibility. And talking about the
Well
statues,
said.
they're taking down these Confederate statues only to put up a statue of George Floyd. Who the heck is George Floyd? What happened to him was unfortunate. He should have never died that way. But we cannot let escape the fact that he was a criminal. He pulled a gun out on a pregnant woman. So a decade from now, will we also be removing his statue? It should never go up. He's not someone that we want to hold up in high esteem. This is ridiculous. Where are the statues of Martin Luther King? Where are the statues of Rosa Parks? We can barely get a statue of Rosa Parks up. And we want to go run and put statues of George Floyd? For what? His family got $27 million. Go away. Case closed. I'm sorry what happened to him. Again, it should not have happened. But to erect a statue, there's one coming up in Brooklyn. One in Minnesota, there's a George Floyd Square, which is riddled with violence. What are we telling our people? Oh, well, critical race theory will take care of that because we're going to brainwash all the white little kids and tell them that they're evil and they're oppressors. This is communism. This is directly from the Maoism book. Sean, what are you hearing on social media?
Yeah, and I mean, I would also totally agree with your sentiments there. And it reminds me of Karl Marx, Karl Marx and his theory on communism, because what they're doing, as you have said, they're doing this racial divide and, everything that they want to bring up that, some of us are saying, well, they want to make it to be racist. You are racist if you're going against Black Lives Matter in any form. Okay. And, they continue to try to divide people based on this, because they would always say, going back to last year, well, this is a quote unquote peaceful protest, and each time we had a peaceful protest, it didn't quite get so peaceful by the end of the protest, right? And that's when you had the real agonizers starting to tear up a city. And then
to tear up a city, right.
Mm-hmm. And then going back to January 6th, what's also funny about that on January 6th is, yeah, you had Trump supporters there in Washington, but it's just as easy for Antifa or BLM to dress up like a Trump supporter, which is what I would do if I were them, which I believe is what happened that particular day. And in addition, okay, the January 6th at the U.S. Capitol, on one of the most important votes the Capitol has had, as far as like certifying the election, why was there no security at the U.S. Capitol? And why is security better at your local mall than it was at the United States Capitol that day on January 6th? A mall cop at your local mall down the street would have better security than what you saw at the U.S. Capitol on the 6th. It's just very curious.
Yeah, it was interesting because before January 6th, I remember hearing a lot of news and rumors about Trump supporters being harassed in D.C. And then, of course, that they were saying that the National Guard was going to be there. But when the whole thing went down, it looked like the National Guard was nowhere to be seen for quite some time. So it did not look like they were prepared after all. For that many people, you would think they would have been ready for something.
Well, again, before the situation took place, I remember reading that Muriel Bowser, the mayor of D.C., had put out an edict as to the things that you could and you can't do. You couldn't come with backpacks, no water, the hotel rooms, she limited that. She even said that she was going to deploy the National Guard. Go back and look at the articles. Google might have taken them down, but go to DuckDuckGo. And you will see what I'm saying is truthful. And it was in the Washington Post. So the day of what happened, again, we had someone who came on and he spoke to us about this. He was a Green Beret, Robert Patrick Lewis. And he said that a lot of the individuals that we saw dressed as police, he said, if you look at them, you will see that they really didn't look like a detailed security team. And that some of them were FBI plants. And that they started this. I know that it is hard to believe. When he came on the show and he spoke about this, I thought, yeah, okay, I didn't quite believe him. And then I started reading. And again, I listened to, unfortunately, CNN. And they were saying exactly the same thing he was saying. They were saying, yeah, the FBI had some men that were there. They were informants, and they were doing this, and they were like some unindicted conspirators and whatnot. I'm like, wait, they're saying the exact same thing. And then he went to say, well, this is the reason they haven't been arrested. They were working with the FBI. It is hard to believe. I did not want to believe it. This is our government. But we didn't want to believe that they were setting President Trump up when Trump kept saying he was spied on. And they kept mincing words. Well, he wasn't spied on. Oh, well, we had an implant. Oh, well, we this, only to find out what he was saying was truthful. The same thing when they said that he had cleared away that space in DC for a photo opportunity. We now see that that was a lie. They knew it was a lie when it was being told. But what happens is that there are people that work within the government. There are seasoned employees. You can't fire them. You can't get rid of them. But with every administration, they're still there. They remain there. Okay. Yes. They're able to spin things. They're able to keep information out of the public domain. And unless you use FOIA to fight for this information and say, we want to know what it is, you will never know. Why is it? We don't know who shot Ashley Babbitt, but we know of all the other police officers that have shot these individuals. Why is it that the gentleman from Indiana who killed a police officer with his car, we barely hear about that now? A police officer was killed, a Capitol police officer. Brian Sicknick was not killed on January 6th. They have told us that, but yet and still Joe Biden goes across the pond and says that a police officer was killed on January 6th. He fails to mention anything about Ashley Babbitt. And when you hear these individuals saying, we want a 9/11 commission to investigate, folks, they don't want to investigate what happened then. They want to investigate the rioters. And then you won't get the information because a lot of these people were professional actors, like the Bull guy. The guy came in with the hair and all that stuff, a professional actor. And now you have a lot of these individuals that are saying, oh, yeah, we believe Trump. We believe Trump when he wanted us to do this. They're saying that because they were paid to do it. They were informants. Don't be deceived. Do your own research. Prove me wrong. Yes, I am passionate about this because I think that we have prisoners of war. And when we have a foreign leader like Vladimir Putin to challenge us on this and to throw this up in our face the same way China did, how are we supposed to feel? What are we supposed to think? Tony Blinken went all the way to Alaska only to be told by the Chinese government, how dare you lecture us on human rights violations when you guys have BLM running rampant? And then Putin says the exact same thing. Why hasn't the media spoke about this? Because they're hoping that you just overlooked it. So they're not going to put any attention on it. Folks, you're being deceived. I'm sorry, you're being deceived. We've got to wake up. We have got to wake up because this is not good for our democracy. It is not good for the United States of America. And as one of our guests said, Carmen Montiel, that if America falls, there is no hope for the rest of the world. If China is successful, along with Russia, in getting us to fall, that's it. Now, some of you might think, oh, that's far-fetched. Well, you thought it would be far-fetched to shut down our economy. And what for? Because Dr. Fauci said so? Now we know that he lied. Folks, it's not good. And if you think that I'm scaring you, good. You should be. Because what was perpetrated during the election should never happen again. People should be held accountable. It is unfortunate that the conservatives don't control both houses. It is unfortunate that we have a lot of Republicans that are there that are afraid to stand up and push back. They've got to start pushing back. They've got to.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. And I think a lot of this goes into what Trump had said a few months ago, right? Where he was saying, hey, who's going to take the country back? It's us. It's us, we the people. It's people like you and me. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that people like you and me and others, got to get more involved, even at a local level. Get involved with your local community, your city council, run for office, run for something like city council or mayor, run for school board, or at least go to your school board meetings at your local community, right? Go there and say, hey, I don't want critical race theory in our curriculum at my son or daughter's school. I don't want Pride Month to be taught all around in our school. You know, this stuff has to stop, and it goes within each person, because if too many people have just sat back and let the bad people take control, and they might be in control of your city or your state or whatever else. And this goes with, just as Rob was mentioning, places like Chicago and DC. They've let some corrupt, bad politicians run their cities and states and run them into the ground in many cases. And oftentimes it would be because, you know, they would say, hey, this person looks good. And guess what? This person is also a minority or a woman or both in some of these cases, and said, oh, this is perfect. It doesn't matter if this is a good or qualified person. We are filling the boxes. We're crossing off the boxes with race and gender with this person. So let's run with it. And we did that with Obama 8 years not too long ago as well.
No, I agree, folks. This is the United States of America, and we love this country. And we opened up wishing all the fathers a, very happy and delightful Father's Day. But if we expect to continue with this great country and celebrating men of power, strength, as well as mothers, we have got to stand up. Because if we don't, they will take it from us. You have a school right now that's removing the names of holidays and just putting a day off. Why? Because a few people are offended. A few minorities are offended. We got to wake up, okay? We've got to wake up. And as Sean said, get involved. Go to the parent-teacher conference. I'm a member of the PTA. Go to them, listen to what's being said. And all of you liberals that are out there that are paying top dollar for these private schools just for your kids to be brainwashed into thinking that they're bad kids, shame on you. That's child abuse. Shame, shame, shame. There's no way I would pay $50,000 a semester to send my kid to a school so that my kid can be told that they're the scum of the earth. I mean, that's basically what they're saying. That's horrible. Dalton, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's almost kind of a little sort of a shadow reality. Like, without getting into details, I know some kids who are attending private schools and they're being taught these things, but it's like they seem to be learning how to play the game in order to give the teacher what they want and hope to get into a good school and ideally one day get ahead in the corporate world. But it's like they know that it's propaganda. And so it's like there's this, anyway, I hear you, I agree with you, but it's almost like people who are more down to earth and have common sense and, understand that, we're all human and, we're all in this together. And, it's almost like conservatives who are not prejudiced or, we're meritocracy based and we're into our friendships and our relationships and relating to each other as individuals. And we sort of, it's like we know how to play this game to say the right things and, say the things that you need to say sort of to, you can't really argue with people who are trained to think along certain lines. And so you kind of need to like placate them kind of. I don't know if that rings a bell with anybody, but or resonates.
No, I hear perfectly what you're saying, and it's unfortunate. These kids are having to play along with the game in order to get to a good school. And know what's happening, but these are young kids. They should not be placed in that position. And shame on the parents who can't think outside the box to say, "Hey, I don't want my child to go through this."
Yeah, I saw a very brave father, speaking of fathers, on Twitter, and the other day, a black man speaking at, I don't know if you guys saw him, happen to see his video, but he was speaking at a school board meeting, I guess, about how he has 2 medical degrees, didn't have a lot of advantages, and does not want his kids' heads filled with this critical race theory. He was saying, if I had been told from the time I was a boy, the odds were all against me, white people hated me, the society was inherently irredeemably racist, and stacked completely against me, I wouldn't have had the motivation. I would have been beaten down psychologically. I couldn't have pushed myself to do everything I've done. And I don't want my children to be inculcated with this. So, to your point, Sean, I thought, wow, here's an individual, a strong father who is in his own local community speaking up. What more can we do? But that's everything. I think, if more of us as individuals find the courage to speak our truth, I think, listen, I mean, I hear you, Rob, that there's a deep state, perhaps. There's all kinds of forces in the establishment who want things a certain way, but they can't control our individual minds. I mean, to be honest, I'm not so sure. I don't see how Trump can win an election. I mean, if you guys believe the last one was fixed, I don't know why the next one wouldn't be fixed. And I think the best thing we can do is to work at a local level, to speak our truth, to stand up for our families, and in a peaceful way to ensure that our voices are heard too.
No, you're right. They will definitely try to steal the next election. Without a doubt, they'll try it. So we're coming up on the hour, and we're going to start. This has been a very fulfilling conversation tonight. Enjoyed it. We haven't had one of these in a long time, but I'm glad we're able to reassemble a great panel to discuss these all too important topics. If there's anything that you take away that I would want you to take away, it's to be aware, stand up, and push back, and continue to do your research.
Absolutely. And please feel free to join Rob Monday through Friday on America Out Loud on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Pandora, or Apple Podcasts. Just type in America Out Loud. And we are on there after dark with Rob and Andrew on iHeartRadio. If you type in America Out Loud, we're on every night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 6 in the West. So check us out there. It's been a great discussion. BB Diamond, any final thoughts for tonight?
Thank you. I think we need to stand together. I agree with Kim. We have been nice for too long. We were founded on Judeo-Christian values, and that's what the left hates, including the teachers' unions. That's why they're trying to corrupt it, and they're targeting students. So we need to stand together and fight for American principles. Thanks for having me on tonight. It's been a great discussion. Thank you, guys.
Thanks as always, BB. We appreciate it. And we got the return of Sean G tonight. I think it's been, 5 months or so since we've last spoken to you. It's good to hear from you tonight. Any final parting comments from you, Sean?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate that. It's great to be chatting again because I know we hadn't in a while. I had taken kind of a little bit of a break from my social media persona, but I think we'll make a comeback as well, much like others need to do as well, to help take back things. And it's been a privilege to do our podcast together, not only on Father's Day weekend, but Juneteenth weekend and in the middle of Pride Month. So, we've crossed off all the boxes today, and we have a very diverse panel, including my green self on the panel here tonight. So it's been a win-win situation and a great end to the holiday weekend.
Indeed. Thank you, Sean. Good to see you. Thank you, Heather. Any parting words from you, Heather?
Just back to basics, guys. I like what Sean said about getting involved in local government and in a peaceful, neighborly way, stating our views too, and not being intimidated to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope everyone had a great Father's Day. As I said, please join us on America Out Loud. You can also join our Telegram. If you can't find the channel, just type in @SmallTownAndrew and message me directly, and I will get you the invite link to the Telegram channel. Since you cannot find us on Twitter anymore, you can still find our channel on Facebook. We have not been taken down there. We have not been taken down on YouTube, but you never know. So Telegram is a good resource to stay in touch with us just in case something were to happen on these platforms. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to BB, Heather, Sean, and of course, my co-host, Rob. Hope everyone has a great Father's Day. God bless.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.